Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. David Hertel in for Elias. Last week, the International Court of Justice made a preliminary finding following the complaint made by the country of South Africa, claiming that Israel was committing what equates to genocide in its war against Hamas in Gaza. So, 15 out of 17 jurists found it plausible that Israel is indeed committing genocide against Palestinians and recommended that Israel not commit acts of genocide. So, to make sense of this and what's going on right now in the Middle East, I'm happy to be joined by Rachad Antonius. He is a retired professor of sociology, specialising in the Middle East at the Université du Quebec à Montreal. Professor Antonius, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Hello, thank you for hosting me.
So, did I probably said something that was inexact in what the International Court of Justice did last week? I know it's a preliminary finding. It's not a final decision. Could you tell us more of what really happened last week and what this decision says?
No, you are absolutely correct.
Okay.
The way the court saw the thing is that they wanted to be cautious, so they did not go as far as South Africa was asking, and they did not declare it to be right now a genocide, and they did not ask for a ceasefire, which means that South African lawyers were disappointed, but also there are several big associations of jurists who have felt that this was something that looked like a genocide. Sometimes they were absolutely clear that this is a genocide. Some other times they said, well, it's it's something that has the characteristics of a genocide. One has to know that there are 5 kinds of genocides in the official international documents on this. A genocide as severe as the one that produced the Holocaust, of course, is extreme. But there are other ways in which a country can engage in something considered to be a genocide even if it doesn't have the same scope. Now, what South Africa, what the court did was it demanded Israel to prepare some more documents and to come back a month from now, and that it will look more carefully at this issue. But in the meantime, it means that the actual ruling, which has been received as disappointing by some people, still means that countries like Canada, for instance, or the US, who send weapons to Israel, could be classified as helping this massacre to continue. And so the ruling is not too weak. It's not as strong as the lawyers of South Africa would have expected it, but it still opens the door to some policies that could slow down the what's going on, the level of conflict. But many people and the jurists of the for South Africa are saying they are disappointed because this doesn't tell Israel stop the massacre now, and that's what's going on.
In terms of the Middle East and the situation, and obviously in the few minutes that we have, I will not ask you to explain the whole situation. It is very complex. But a ruling like this, the International Court of Justice, the whole international law system, we've been talking about this since South Africa first filed their complaint and the reactions, Canada, others. But what is the real impact of an International Court of Justice decision on the conflict, on the situation in the Middle East?
The international system is not like a court in a country where you have a political power that can enforce the ruling. Basically, a ruling of this sort will depend on countries to enforce it. Now, when you have the most powerful country in the world, the US, which does not want to enforce it, then it makes it more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
But also, we have other elements of international law. For instance, the Geneva Conventions of 1949 says very, very clearly a country cannot, which is occupying a land, cannot transfer its own population into this occupied land. By virtue of this, Canada does recognize on paper that all the settlements in the West Bank are illegal. And this is written black on white on the website of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade in Canada. But still, it's there, but nobody enforces it. Canada does not ask Israel to dismantle the colonies, although it recognizes that the international law says that it should. So, international law is a means of pressure. It's a means of negotiation. It is a moral dimension to the requirements that the violence stops, but it doesn't have the same as a court within a country, right, where you have a government that can enforce the rulings.
My final question, Professor Antonius, is about Canada's reaction. You alluded to Canada several times during our conversation. How do you explain right now, how do you interpret or see Canada's reaction to this preliminary ruling by the International Court of Justice?
Well, you see, cutting the funding for UNRWA is, I believe, directly related to the issue. So it's
the export permits of arms as well, right? The Canadian export permits to arms to Israel. That's the question there.
Yes. Well, no. I'm not sure about whether Canada has refused to export arms. I don't know.
Well, I have not seen it. Hasn't Canada? I can tell you, Canada has not done anything to limit the scope of export permits of arms to Israel.
Absolutely. So it has not changed anything on this ground. But what it has done is that it has cut the fundings for the UN refugee agencies that help the Palestinians survive. So this is extremely dangerous because it makes the lives of ordinary citizens, of children, it makes it very vulnerable, very they are really a danger.
I read that, Professor Antonius. I'm sorry to interrupt because I'm running out of time, but weren't there allegations that this organization, they had employees that, allegations that had participated in the October 7th attack?
Absolutely. Yes, but the organization has 13,000 employees, and there are allegations against 12 of them.
Right.
So, it's easy to condemn them, to imprison them, to condemn them very severely. But now the ones who are punished are not the 13 who did that. The ones who are punished are the civilians who need food and water. So this is why it's a very bad reaction on the part of Canada.
I understand. This is very interesting. I really appreciate your time and your insights, Professor Antonius.
My pleasure.
Rachad Antonius is a retired professor of sociology specializing in the Middle East at the Université du Québec à Montréal.